Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, our Jordanian journalist. Mr. Ramzy, it's a very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you, Ramzy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramzy, for your time this afternoon. And just to quickly wrap up the recent developments with regards to the situation in the Gaza Strip, the UN said dozens of Israeli airstrikes have now killed only women and children after the ceasefire collapsed, citing a recent strike that killed a family of 10 on Friday. Yet meanwhile, the Israeli defense ministers announced on Saturday that the military is planning to further expand the ongoing offensive across much of the Gaza Strip, warning residents to evacuate from the combat zones. How do you see this recent announcement, sir?
Obviously, with the attacks, Israel has been bombarding the whole of Gaza overnight. The attacks were in almost all territories. Now, the biggest development is in the fact that the Israeli army has taken full control of the Murag axis. What that really means is that the whole area of Rafah, which is 75 square kilometers, is now totally surrounded by the Israeli army. Now, the Israeli army has not entered inside of that territory, inside of the 75 kilometers. But what Israel is intending to do, and this is not a new project. They've discussed this before, they declared this before, but they couldn't do it before, and they're doing it right now, which is to turn that whole 75 kilometers into a buffer zone that would totally detach Gaza from Egypt. So it's exactly on the border with Egypt, and therefore 75 deep, 75 square kilometers is the size of the area, but it's a very deep area into Gaza. And therefore, there would be absolutely no connection between Gaza and Egypt if Israel is able to maintain this. Why Israel has not entered into the inside of Rafah and has just surrounded it from the outside, which will have to be the next stage, is because Netanyahu can't afford casualties. Netanyahu wants to try to do this without major casualties. Because if there are major casualties, then this is proof to the Israeli public, and obviously there is a major problem going on with the Israeli public right now.
Right.
Most of the Israeli public does not believe that Israel should continue the war because they don't believe that Netanyahu is going to be able to occupy the whole of Gaza and remove the Palestinians from that land. So this is basically where we are right now. They have surrounded Rafah, and the question is, are they going to take full control of it and turn it into a buffer zone? Are they going to be able to get away with that or not? And this is going to create a major diplomatic crisis with Egypt, NG.
Yes.
Because the peace agreements obviously stipulate border is with Palestine, not with Israel.
Now, Mr. Ramzy, the United Nations Human Rights Office also warned, that the expanding Israeli evacuation orders were resulting in the forcible transfer of people, into the ever-shrinking areas already, and this is raising real concern as to the future viability of the Palestinians, even as a group in Gaza. How do you read this statement, sir?
I'm sorry, Angie, I lost your voice for a little bit. Can you ask the question again?
Sure. I was saying that the United Nations Human Rights Office has reported and warned that the continued Israeli evacuation orders that are expanding were resulting in forcible transfers of people to the already shrinking areas, which is raising a real concern as to the future viability of Palestinians, even as a group in Gaza. How do you read this statement, sir?
The statement is very accurate. It's a disaster. Because what obviously Israel now wants to empty Rafah from the whole Palestinian population that is in Rafah. And by the way, the vast majority of those people are people who have already been forcibly moved from one place to another several times.
Already, yes.
And there is no place in Gaza that it's safe and that has the infrastructure to accommodate people. And so when we're talking about shrinking territories, the areas where people can actually put up tents and attempt to survive are becoming non-existent. They are becoming too few, too small, cannot accommodate. And obviously the biggest problem of all is the usage of starvation and lack of medical supplies as a weapon of war. Now, Israel is starving the civilians in order to put political pressure on Hamas and the other groups.
Yes.
And which is in itself a war crime. Of course, moving people from one area to another, the way that Israel is doing it, is also a war crime. And but then Israel doesn't care, and Israel is doing exactly what they want to do. The question is, will the United States of America allow Israel to continue doing this, and until when? Because there has been a green light from the Americans. They obviously have told Netanyahu, go ahead and try to achieve your goals. But for how long? Are they going to allow Netanyahu to do another year of this? Or is there a time when America is going to tell Netanyahu, enough is enough? You have to stop now. And until that day, it doesn't seem that that anybody is capable of actually stopping Israel from carrying out its scheme.
Indeed, Mr. Ramzy, also the Minister of Foreign Affairs has held a string of meetings with a number of world leaders and counterparts, and he's met with his Palestinian counterpart as well, all in the effort to tackle and consolidate the Egyptian efforts with regards to the discussion of a ceasefire agreement, all whilst he was attending the conference being held in Turkey, the Antalya conference. Tell me, Mr. Ramzy, how do you see the importance of the diplomatic fury when it comes to possible meetings and negotiations on the part of Egypt to garner further support, especially as we're seeing in the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, which is being held in Turkey?
Extremely important, Angie. The Antalya meeting was extremely important, and the outcomes were extremely important. What Egypt has done is they have been able to create the committees necessary to actually take a united position between Arab and Muslim countries on the Palestinian issue. And the engagement of Saudi Arabia on that track was also extremely important, Angie, because Mr. Donald Trump, the U.S. president, is all about achieving his Abrahamic Accords. He wants Saudi Arabia to actually normalize relations with Israel. The more active Saudi Arabia in international diplomacy on behalf of the Palestinians, the more frustrated Trump is going to be about achieving his goals, and the more Trump will understand that Israel is impeding these goals. And this is why I was saying, for how long? The Antalya message was very, very clear. That the Arabs and the Muslims are not going to accept any transfer, population transfer out of Palestine, whether it is Gaza or the West Bank. And they made it very clear that the only solution is going to have to be a two-state solution, where a Palestinian state is erected side by side with Israel. Antalya also made it very clear that the Israeli atrocities have to stop, and all aid has to come into Gaza immediately. All of these messages are extremely important. And if you look, we are also seeing a reaction from the Europeans, for example, because the Europeans now are pretty much saying the same statements that came out of Antalya. And so the Egyptian effort is vital. and that meeting was extremely successful. And the meeting, by the way, the committees that have been erected in order to take action are going to engage in major diplomacy worldwide in order for us to at least achieve a ceasefire immediately.
Absolutely, Mr. Ramzy. And also the meeting between the Egyptian Foreign Minister and several leaders and counterparts in Turkey tackled a very important issue, which are some of the preparations which are related to the Gaza Reconstruction Conference, which is to be hosted in Egypt in cooperation with the Palestinian government as well as the United Nations. A very important conference that Egypt is still very keen to host in light of its continued efforts for the reconstruction of Gaza.
Absolutely, because we cannot talk about no transfer of the Palestinian population to outside of the Palestinian territories without actually having a solution. And the only solution we have in order for Palestinians to remain on their land is reconstruction. So the reconstruction conference that will be held in Egypt is the solution, is the answer to this problem. Yes, all of the mechanisms that have been established in talks on the sidelines of the Antalya conference are extremely important, because you cannot go to a conference without a plan that is acceptable to a certain degree by stakeholders. So the stakeholders were there, they discussed details, they have reached to all the principles that they agree upon in order for the conference in Egypt to be successful. And therefore, again, the very close communications that have been going on between Arab states is also vital, because this is how you create a front that is able to achieve any results on behalf of the Palestinian people.
Absolutely, Mr. Ramzy. And for our final question, we're seeing some of the discussions that occurred with regards to the conference being held in Turkey. And the Turkish president himself has accused Israel of sowing further division, specifically now in Syria, in a bid to dynamite the revolution that ousted the former ruler Bashar al-Assad. How do you see the Turkish president's address with regards to the actions of the Israeli occupation?
Actually, the Turkish president's address was very important, because he put his foot down and he said that not just him, but also many countries, including Egypt, Jordan, and all of these countries are not going to allow Israel to steal Syrian lands or to divide Syria on the basis of ethnic backgrounds, which Israel has been trying to do. Israel has been trying to say that they are the saviors and the protectors of the Druze in Syria, for example. Israel is trying to occupy the whole of the south of Syria, which places Israel, by the way, on the border of Jordan. And so the Jordanians are not very happy with this. But all of these Israeli actions have to be confronted in very strong terms. And this is what Erdogan did. And by the way, this is also what the Egyptian foreign minister, the Jordanian foreign minister, the Saudi foreign minister, all of the foreign ministers who were there, also they took a position that is very strong regarding this issue, to make it clear that this is not just talk. There will be action if Israel does not stop what it is doing, and to send a message to the Americans that what Israel is doing in Syria is just not going to work. And the Americans have to tell Netanyahu, stop this. Israel has already occupied the Jabal al-Sheikh. This is the source of water that is that Syria, Lebanon, Jordan depend on.
Are dependent on, yes.
To occupy the source of water to all of these countries become hostages in the hands of the right-wing government in Israel. This is not acceptable, and this is not going to work. The other thing is that the new Syrian government, NG, is still trying to build a state.
Yes.
Not everything is fine inside of Syria, and therefore they need help. And the best help they can get is from their Arab brethren countries. But Turkey is totally committed to that front as well. And part of that help that Syria needs is military. And therefore, for Israel to come and say they will not allow any military assistance, whether it's Turkish or others, inside of Syria, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's none of your business. This is the message that came out of that conference.
Absolutely. On that note, I'm afraid I'll have to leave it at that. We've run out of time, but I'd like to thank you very, very much, our dear guest, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, our Jordanian journalist. Thank you, sir, for your time and your insight. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up today's edition of Arab Affairs. Thank you for joining us.